Welcome back to another video. Who is the biggest team in this 25-26 League 1 season? Who's the Tinfot team in this League 1 season? You're going to know my 24-1 on who is the biggest teams in League 1. Let me know yours in the comments down below. So we're kicking things off with Wimbledon. As you can see, I put them in well known. I've got post 2000, you've got pre 2000, and I think, you know, when you look at obviously the 88 team and Vinnie Jones and all that jazz with Wimbledon, and then you think, yeah, they're quite a big team, but this current Wimbledon isn't that. So I think you can look at it both ways, and I'm looking at it both ways. I'm not picking a side there, and I'm going smack in the middle. I think when you think of Wimbledon, they're quite well known. You don't just think of the Wombles, you don't just think of tennis, you don't just think of Cliff Richard. They're well known. Next up we've got Lincoln, the Imps, and what a funny badge it is, it doesn't even have its face on there, but I think they're respectable at Lincoln, but the majority are. Who are they? You know, where have they come from? But they've been a very respectable League 1 team in the recent history, but in terms of the whole career of Lincoln City, they've been a respectable EFL team. Obviously pre-Danny Cowley, they were struggling in non-league, and they've sort of been around that. I'd probably think of them off the top of my head as a sort of bottom half League 2 side, so it is a who are they, but there's a lot worse reputation teams. Next up we've got Luton. Now obviously they were in the Premier League 2 seasons ago. They've had a dramatic drop back to where they belong. I think Luton are a League 1 team. They are one of the bigger teams in League 1. They had a few years in the old Division 1 back in the 80s, 90s sort of period of time, and they've flirted around that sort of top division in the Championship. They've had a few years as well. But when I think of Luton, I think they probably have spent most of their time in League 1, and I'd certainly have them in the sort of top half region. So I mean, is your nan aware of Luton Town? Probably not, but they do have an airport. I'll just clarify, but actually Luton Town don't have an airport, not at Kenilworth Road. It is an absolute dump. It's a Tinfot ground, but we're not doing that. Now Reading are one of the biggest teams in League 1, that's why I've just put them, but your nan's aware. But again, your nan's probably not aware of Reading, but she probably does like reading a book, but it's slightly different, Cynthia. So that is the problem there with that category. I probably should rename it, but I like it, it's unique. But Reading obviously broke the they've got the record championship points total with 106 points, which I don't think will be beaten anytime soon, and that's some of it they can always say is theirs until it gets broken. That they've always spent time in the Premier League. I'd say they are probably a Championship club. They are one of the oldest teams of English football. I think they were formed in the 1880s or 1860s. Very, very old team. A lot of history behind them. Sad what happened to them in the Die Young era in the last few years, where they nearly went bust, but thankfully they seem to be saved, and they're heading towards an upward trajectory and can get back to where they belong, but certainly one of the biggest teams in the 25-26 season. Now we have found ourselves our first Tinfot club in this League 1 season. Now the thing with Wickham is, you think of Wickham and you think of Gareth Ainsworth, and they have been in the Championship in recent seasons. Some of these League 1 clubs haven't been, but you look at the ground, it's not the best place to go. You don't want to go to Wickham, dear. Let's be honest, on your holiday. It's not pleasant, and like I said, they're the Gareth Ainsworth Football Club, and yes, I think in maybe 10 years' time, Wickham will be maybe well known, because they've spent a lot of time in that League 1 Championship sort of table region in the last maybe 20 years when you look at it in 10 years' time, and there will be a well-known club. But I think they just don't look good to look at, do they? They never do, Wickham, for me. I just sort of wince when I look at them, and they're just not very pleasant at all, in my honest opinion. So I don't really like Wickham for some reason, but yeah, so they're very Tinfot Football Club. Now this is probably controversial, because at the end of the day, Plymouth Town, that complete wrong team I've got there. Plymouth Argyle fans. You are the only reason why I've got you so high up, because they're so well travelled. The Green Army, they're great. They're so southern, they're so far down south, yet they take so many fans across the country, and that's why your nan's probably aware of them. She's probably travelling up and down the motorway. She shouldn't be, because she's probably too old. She's probably caused a lot of crashes and unnecessary traffic. So, you know, let's have a word about your nan here. But she's probably aware of these green people who just keep going up and down the motorway all season long. A very rowdy bunch as well, to say they're from the south. So she's aware of them, is old Barbara, and she is very impressed with them as well. Next we have got Port Vale. I think they're only known for, if you like darts or if you like Robbie Williams, because it's Phil Taylor and Robbie Williams in it. They're the only people who would bring a knowledge to Port Vale Football Club. But they're quite likeable. They've got a great fan base. Great derby against Stoke. It don't get played enough because Port Vale are pretty terrible at football, and I think they've got one of the most relegations from League One. They've certainly got one of the most losses in League One, and it must be very depressing for them that they are in that sort of League Two to League One sort of category, where at that top end was very close to bumping them up to well known, very close, but they just need to get a bit better. As you can see, we've got another Tinfot team in League One this season. It is Stevenage. They were founded in 1975. I mean, it don't get much more Tinfot than that. I do think they're on the up. They've got a bit of money. They certainly could be that sort of Wickham mould where they do end up being a championship team. I don't know when Wickham were founded. Very lazy part from me. But I do think, who are Stevenage? You know, it is a very interesting topic of who are they, but they're not quite at that level, because I don't think they're well known enough to even think of who are they. So I think they're very Tinpot. Stockport, well known. I think they're very well known. They've got a great set of fans. They have spent a lot of time in non-league, but they have spent a lot of time in the Championship, I'm pretty sure, back in the 90s. They're sort of being that sort of... I think of them as a middle ground of League One. I think they're a club on the up, so that they are going to become more well known in the future, but in which case, why not put Wickham higher? So you can argue that, but I think they've got a great fan base, particularly, is it the Cheadle end? And they will be very well known, because if anyone's been to Manchester Airport, you do fly over the ground. Right, this is generous. Mansfield, and who are they? Now, I think most people won't know who Mansfield are, but they're bordering on Tinpot. I do like them as a football club. They've got a great set of fans. When you go to Mansfield, they're quite loud. I don't know if that's recent years, but when I've gone, they've been loud, and they've come to Bradford City, they've been loud. So, really like the fan base. That is why they are just one place above. They're a bottom half League Two club over the history, and that they don't have a stand. They have a completely empty stand, which needs sorting out, and I think it will. So for me, Mansfield, it's not looking good. It's the first time you've spent consecutive seasons in League One for well over 20 years. I mean, it could even be longer, because it was the first time they're in League One for over 20 years, and I don't think it was branded League One last time doing League One, so it's bordering on Tinpot. Right, sticking with Tinpot clubs, you don't get much more Tinpot than Exeter. Fan base ain't quite there, history ain't there. There's nothing there in Exeter. I haven't really been. There's a good derby with Plymouth, to be fair, but apart from that, does it get played a lot? No. And I don't really know what else to say. They've spent most of existence in non-league. I will say they're very likeable. They are very likeable. They're one like a proper football club. They're really good with the academy that's set up. They're a club that's been on the rise for the last maybe 20 years or so now, when they broke back into the English Football League. But even then, they've been bottom half of League One, and that's when it's great. But they've been in League Two for the majority of that anyway. So, very Tinpot Football Club, unfortunately, because they are likeable. Now, this one were hard. This one were really hard. Wigan Athletic, where do you put them? Your nan's probably aware of them for the Premier League days, but they only came into existence in 1978. They weren't in the top 4 divisions in England until 1978. Since then, they haven't gone out of there, but I mean, they've spent a lot of time in the Championship post-90s. They're a post-90s football club, but now they're back mid-table in League One. Is that sort of an average of where they belong, or further when you look at the entire history over 1932 that they were founded, so nearly 100 years. They have won an FA Cup. So they've won an FA Cup. They've been in the Premier League for a good 10 years or so, when Dave Reelan were there, and you can't underestimate that. So they've got to be they are one of the biggest clubs in League One. Are they overrated as a football club? I think they probably are. I think it would be fair to say so, but you can't have them any lower than that sort of top 10 region for me. Next up, Leyton Orient. Now, they're a well-known football club. That they are a League One football club over the course of the history for me, and I think they're definitely in that middle region of League One football clubs, and they're very, again, well reputable, well respected. Definitely for me, they're sort of in that middle category. We found our first goat. Now, it pains me to say it, because I wish I could put them in Tinpot, but I can't. I've got to be non-biased. I've got to be realistic. And unfortunately, Huddersfield are a goated League One team. They shouldn't be in League One. Well attended at the games, but we are better at that. But yeah, I mean, I do have respect for Huddersfield to a certain degree. I don't agree with all the dog stuff. I think they could pack that in, those poor terriers. But no, in seriousness, they did win Division 1, the old Division 1, 3 times in a row. Consecutively. Man City obviously recently broke that, but that was Huddersfield's record, and you can't discount that for your argument to say it was so long ago. So yeah, they are a big club, and when you think of Huddersfield, you do think a Championship club at the bare minimum. Next up, we've got Doncaster, who are well known now. They have been in League 2 for a couple of seasons now, having been relegated from League 1 a few years ago, but I'd say they're a League 1 football club. But when they were in League 2, obviously the attendances dropped. I mean, the games where you could count on your fingers how many people were at Doncaster Open games. They've been in the Championship recently as well, and like I say, I think over the course of their lifespan, they probably are sort of maybe a bottom half mid-table League 1 side, and that's a lot better than a lot of the other teams in League 1 this season. Cardiff City are definitely one of the most famous teams in League 1 this season. It don't feel right that it should be in League 1 this season. That they are a Championship club, sort of that mid-table Championship club who, to be fair, up until last season, you didn't really think they would get relegated, even though it were threatening, but now it is in League 1. You see Cardiff in this list and it just don't look right, even though they have spent a lot of time in League 1 in the history, but they've also spent, I think, altogether 17 seasons in the top division of the Premier League, that it is now known as. I think they've only spent one season in the current Premier League format, but 16 in the old Division 1. So they are a big club, and they always have been, and added the biggest club in Wales. Well, you can let me know your thoughts on that in the comments down below, but a club with a rich history deserves to be one of the biggest clubs in this League 1 season. Burton are Tinfot. I mean, do I need to say anything more? They have spent years in the Championship, but the Nigel Clough FC took them from the Conference up to the Championship. I think he's had 2 different spells there, has he? And he did a great job there. But aside from that period of time, I think 2008 they came into a football league. Apart from that, they spent about 60 years of their existence, down in the pits of non-league. Rotherham, they're a big club in League 1 for me. I think that they are a traditional League 1 team throughout the course of their history. Never spent any time of the lifespan in the Premier League. They've spent a lot of it in the Championship, yo-yoing from League 1 and Championship over the last 20-30 years or so, particularly in the last 10. And but they've spent a bit of time in League 2, so I think over the course of it they probably are that sort of mid-table League 1 team from what I think of them as well. Decent fan base behind them. In recent history, you'd look at Peterborough and go to a big League 1 team, they're going to be up there and challenging, but over the course of the history they've been a League 2 team. So how do you balance that? They've been in the Championship recently, but in the last 15-20 years that they have been at top League 1 Championship fighting team, and that they haven't spent enough seasons in the Championship to anywhere near balance their history out for me. So I think over the course of the history you go Huala. In terms of this League 1 season, obviously they're a big team coming into it, but in terms of the history and as well, they're not. Now we're on to the big one, Bradford City. Now unfortunately I can't match them up with Huddersfield because it would be lying, wouldn't it? And we've got to be non-biased. You've got to be non-biased. I know most of you watching will be Bradford City fans, but do let me know your thoughts. I think that's fair. I think over the course of the history, I think we're we're a playoff League 1 team, so we do deserve to be in the top echelons of that. We've spent 2 seasons in the Premier League, which isn't ideal, and I think in the Division 1 itself, or we might be going back like into the 1920s. There's a lot of history, a lot of deep history with Bradford City Football Club. Great fan base as well in the last 30 years. Best colours as well, obviously. I mean, who has clown and amber in England? Never mind League 1. I mean, it's just the best, unique and vibrant. Welcoming another go is Blackpool. Now, Jimmy Arfield, I think, is what Blackpool are known for, but they're not a League 1 team, are they really? They've spent a lot of time a lot of their time in the Premier League. I think they've won a trophy or 2 as well, and Championship team, aren't they really? Great fan base, great area, location, more talking more like 30, 40, 50 years ago. It's a bit run down. It's not the best, is it, at the minute, Blackpool? I don't think anywhere in England is. I mean, you'll be saying you're one to speak from Bradford, but you're always proud of where you come from, or you should be. And if you're not, then you're a realist, aren't you? Because there's nowhere in England's pretty, but Blackpool certainly ain't what it was. The football team ain't what it was, but what it was one of the best, and certainly one of the best in League One over reputable. And looking at this season, you will go, yeah, they're going to be up and around it, and they always have been that sort of team. So definitely one of the biggest in League One, and the goats for me. Has your nan heard of Barnsley FC? Well, they're certainly up there. They're definitely that sort of top half League One team throughout the career of their history. They spent a lot of time in the Championship over the course, I think, between the 80s, 90s and around the mid-10s as well. They're in there, and they sort of yo-yoed recently. They found themselves maybe languishing in League One, maybe for a few more seasons as well. And they have been in League Two, but for me, Barnsley are always a top League One team who are pushing on to try and cement themselves as a Championship team. Good attendances, good ground, and an all-round good, respectable football club. Northampton Tinfot, maybe that's harsh, maybe they should be whoever, because they've spent a lot, they're a League 2 team, and they've spent a lot of the time in League 2, a few years in League 1, but mainly they're just a bog standard League 2 team, very, very minuscule, Northampton. So I don't know much about the fan base either, to be honest with you. I don't know if they're well supported down at Six Fields, but I just always think of them as a very small club, even though I've checked the League 2. So maybe it's a bit harsh. They're at the top end of Tinfot, but they are Tinfot, aren't they? Let's be honest. And then the goats, they are the goats. I mean, if I do that top three, it is in that order for me. Bolton are the biggest team in League One this season, and they are one of the biggest teams in England for sure. Definitely so in that top 10, top 20 region because of what they've achieved. Obviously, the Sam Allardyce era pushing for Europe, but previous to that as well, they've always been around that, accumulated one of the most points. They've got a rich history. They're a great football club. They've spent a few years down in the League One area now. By far the biggest club. They've won 5 trophies. The average in the Premier League, I think when I saw it, I've seen it as the 10th in the all-time positions for points, but I mean surely again that were wrong, but they spent a lot of time in the top division, and like I said, it was a bit of a shame how they were charging on for Europe, and they could have had a big legacy behind them there, Bolton, but nearly went bust, so they've got that behind them as well for history, but luckily they're still around with us now, and again they're a decently supported football club. Oh no. Well, I was going to go and sort it out to higher and lower to each tier and sort of get it more in a concise 24-1. I hope I came across it in that way anyway, but I'm sorry if I offended any of your teams, by the way. I respect every one of you apart from Huddersfield, and I've got them second, but that was the top 3 how it was. But yeah, I accidentally clicked a button, it went all off, and that's just what I do. It was sort of going too perfect technically for me, but something had to happen, and I clicked a backspace or something, and it all went. But look, I've been harsh on some. Sorry, I've been very right. I've been very generous to some. I hope I get a Christmas card from you. But at the end of the day, it's all for a bit of fun. Football is supposed to be fun. It is the beautiful game, and let's keep it beautiful. And we're finishing on my face, so there you go. But do like the video if you did. It's something different, something to keep us going whilst there's only nearly 2 weeks to go before the EFL season starts, and this League One season starts with Wimbledon, Luton, and I can't wait. I absolutely can't wait for it, because at the end of the day, however I've rated your team, I'm Bradford City. We've had some absolute Tinpot teams. League 2 is Tinpot League. It's just the Tinpot area. So even if I put you in Tinpot, I'm looking forward to seeing you, because you've got the goats in this division, and we are one of the biggest. I mean, we are definitely top 10. I think anyone would say that. So I'm looking forward to every single game, because every single one of yous are a proper football club, because you're in League One. So that's just what you come to appreciate and respect, and that's what it is. It's a good level of respect. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Let me know yours. Let me know, hopefully, that you disagree with me, because you shouldn't be agreeing with me. Let me know your 1 to 24s. Let me know why I would be wrong for putting someone too high or too low. And all together, let's now say goodbye, and thank you very much for watching, but have a good one.